What up, everybody? Before we get started, I have a corporate service announcement. This is not a drill. This is not a drill. No animals or humans were hurt in the making of this video. If you are of a corporate fixed mindset, you may need to seek medical advice after this episode. With that, let's get going.
Pour l'hygiène, tu l'as dans le fion. Dans le distributeur, il n'y a plus de savon.
Dick hands, asshole fingers. You don't wash your hands. Bacteria lingers. Personal hygiene's got no hope when your soap dispenser ain't got no soap. Personal hygiene's got no hope when your soap dispenser ain't got no soap. Well, it looks like you ain't seen this shit in months, possibly years. And I swear I'm not some germaphobe, but that screams to my worst fears. Go check out Modern Germ Theory, dude. Come join the 21st century. You got a long time to do it, or it'll just catch up with you eventually like that.
Oh my God, how was that? Incredible. Brian Kenney Fresno. This is episode 12 of Raiders the Lost Art with Brian Kenney Fresno and Jim Wright. And today we're going to talk about art, creativity, and the Warr guitar. You know, certain things happen in your life that fundamentally change you. And this week, as I've been researching Brian, I feel like I've been fundamentally changed. I've been taken into a brand new universe. The way he mixes sound, noise, orchestration, technicality, technology, it all synthesizes into this sound sculptures which just blossom. It's like the beauty of a car crash and poetry coming together that fundamentally rewires your neurons. At least it did for me anyway. Brian is, you know, if I haven't mentioned it, I still think he's one of the world's most underrated musicians. He's incredible. He's just pushing boundaries that I don't think anyone for a long time has been pushing. Anyway, he has his own unique style and own unique sound, and today we're going to dig deep and find out a little bit more. So today I'm joined with Jim on a conversation we had earlier with Brian, and with that, let's get into it. Hey Brian, welcome. Okay.
Thank you. I feel welcome.
Yeah, great, mate. It's great to have you here. Look, I've heard so much about you. I've listened to some of your music. It's awesome. It's crazy. It's incredible. It's creative. I just love everything about it. And James, you know, people are probably getting to know you a little bit now from the first two episodes. James is a world-renowned player as well of the Warr guitar, my teacher. Both you guys are awesome. So look, I want to start off by asking a question to you, Brian. It's what was it that made you get into this crazy instrument, the Warr guitar? Do you sort of, if you go back, can you sort of remember a time where you just went, you saw this thing and you was like, I got to get into this? What was that like?
Well, you know, my introduction was basically through Jim at the Namm show. They had the booth next door to the ART, Applied Research and Technology company, and I was playing there. I played another instrument at the time, and Jim came over and he was showing me all about the guitar. We had been in touch before that, I think years earlier, it seems to me, and I'm the whole thing. You know, I had played another instrument similar to it for many years before that, and I was you know, first moved by Tony Levin and the work of Randy Strom, of course, and Paul Edwards of Kitty Hawk. They came to Fresno. Kitty Hawk did, supporting the Dixie Dregs, and Kitty Hawk stole the show. They twice actually, and anyway, and that was the closest I had ever been to this crazy type of new instrument. And then, of course, Tony Levin was a big hero to everybody. But then, you know, Jim introduced me to the Warr guitar at the Namm show, and it was obviously a whole new deal altogether, and the possibilities were limited by any outside forces at all. There was completely just Mark was wanting to accommodate all designs, it seemed like. And anyway, he was, I'm embarrassed to say that he gave me my guitar, and that I'm proud and embarrassed, but because he wanted me to play it. I played at a show for the Warr guitar when I was playing a different instrument, and Mark really wanted me to play it. So I think maybe Jim elbowed him in the ribs or something, possibly too. I'm not really sure how that all went down. And then one day he asked me my address, and it was a big.
I'll tell that story from my point of view.
Okay.
Yeah, Brian was demoing for ART at the time, playing the stick, and I saw him play, and I was like, "Wow, this guy's different than every other stick player I've ever seen." And in the course of a conversation that day, I'm sure I must have told him about the Warr guitar. He gave me a cassette, which, you know, everybody at the Namm show gives you some kind of media, a cassette. That's how long ago it was. It was a cassette. And of course, I didn't listen to it. I didn't listen to it about 2 months later. And when I did, I was just blown away at how good it was, because everybody gives you stuff at the Namm show and you listen to it and it's like, whatever. Brian's stuff was just amazing. It was an album of his called Implacable Leptitude. And it had songs on it like Trash Day, which was literally just a song about trash day in your neighborhood. But the song itself was so cool that I couldn't believe that here was this guy that was on this creative level that was so incredibly high. He had another song called Time Lady, which is like a guy who's calling up, you know, in those days you could call a telephone number and it would tell you what time of day it was. And the whole idea of the song was that the guy didn't know that it wasn't a real person, that it was just a recording, and he had fallen in love with her. And so he was trying to figure out how he could get with the time lady. And I just thought that was such a wonderful concept. And I didn't have to elbow Mark in the ribs at all. We actually had Brian play at our Namm show while he was still playing the stick. We loved him so much that we just said, no, you have to come down and play. And he did. And then Mark was like, well, okay, you've got to have a Warr guitar. And that's my memory of the event.
Well, that's pretty sweet of you, Jim. I really I appreciate that. Those recordings, you know.
And at that time, I wanted to ask you, Brian, at that time when you were playing stick, it was a 10-string, right? Because that was the same stick you brought to the seminar?
No, I had a grand stick by that time, I think.
Did you?
Sure. Yeah.
And were you still tuned 5 and 7 on your grand stick?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Oh, so you started that tuning before you got to the Warr.
Uh-huh.
And was that just an attempt to get some lower strings so that you could play more bottom end?
Yeah, it gives you it gives you a nice set of groups of octaves. And it turned out there's something that I just discovered in the last couple of years that really helps. It would be impossible without that. I'd love to share it with you. I feel like I'm going to burp. Well, yeah, I wanted more low end, and I figured there would be less accommodation for the bass side, and I didn't think I'd be using the high bass string much. And Randy, he says he hardly ever uses it, if at all. But I found out this thing, it's like a power chord sort of thing on the low with just your left hand. Because you see, these days I play drums with my feet, and I have these pedals. Don't let me get distracted. I'm already distracted. So a lot of times I'm playing drums with my right hand. And so just playing figures, I used to just play bass, and then I realized all the guitar groupings that are underneath so that I can play with one hand. And I developed this crimping figure. I thought I sprained my hand until I just forced it to learn how to do that, where you can play the lowest C string. I have a standard bass tuning in fifths. You can play on the lowest string and then get the second to the lowest string, the sixth string on the guitar string, and play like a little power chord with it. I'm sorry, I don't have my instrument with me. And so you can outline just the bass note and then the same note tucked behind it with your first finger. So the one bass note is with your second finger, and then the guitar note is with your first finger, and then playing the octave, the fifth and the octave with your ring finger. So you can go, don't go down, go down. The Fresno song, don't go down, go down, down. That's all that. There's no right hand guitar part. So that's all drums and just one hand. And so anyway, so you can do that same pairing on the second lowest string, on the G string, if you have 7 guitar strings, you still have another lower string. So that side descends while the bass side ascends. So it's still nice and low, and it takes advantage. I'm using my finger in the camera of the crosstalk that we're always trying to get away from. So instead of trying to keep the bass out of the distortion, you got this really crunchy bass going right with the guitar going. It works fantastic, and I was so excited about it for years. I just wanted to share.
Is there a particular song you have that people could listen to that would demonstrate
Fresno.
that?
Yes, Fresno. Yeah, it's a song on my The Future is Fresno, the last album.
Oh, on your new album?
Yeah.
Cool.
And that's the one that
Have we
really
discussed-
showcases it the most.
We should mention that you have a new release out right now.
I would love to mention that. I would love for everybody to buy it. I would buy a boat if everybody bought a copy of it. I'm wanting a boat. We don't have any water around Fresno.
Well, I bought a copy,
Whatever.
and it's awesome.
Oh, thank
I've
you
heard
for
that.
My sound is down real low, so we don't get feedback.
What I love about the instrument, I've sort of said this before, is, coming new to it, I've been playing all my life, doing all sorts of things. But coming to this, I got a little bit stale in my excitement for music. I just became bored, basically. I could play a lot of different things. I could compose things, and my head's also, I've been doing other things with companies and technology and stuff, and coming back and finding this instrument. I like you guys, I started with the stick, but I was very lucky early on in my journey. I've only been playing for about a year. Is that, I got a stick, and then, pretty much straight away this Warr guitar appeared, and I just bought it. And within a couple of months of my stick, this Warr arrived, and for me personally, once I played on the Warr guitar, it was like, okay, I've got to play this full time, and it just inspired me to as you were saying, Brian, like you got this one finger thing, and you got the crunch, and then you got the drums here. It's like, I love all that because it just opens your imagination, takes away rules. So it just gives you this new palette to play with. Does that sort of resonate with you guys?
It sure does for me. I also want to mention this some modifications that have been done to my my system that enable this playing with the drums thing. I had part of the things modified so that all of the effects are tied in through the guitar. So what used to be, I guess they put Jim would know, were they coil taps that were on the little black metal switches? Well, they were replaced with these toggles that go either way. So I can turn on effects, or I can actually change complete patches on both the bass side and the guitar side from the instrument. And so since I'm playing drums with my feet, and I'm standing, I don't have any extra feet to be stomping pedals or anything. So I have to change all of the effects and preamps and stuff from the guitar. Anyway, so it would be impossible without all this, it's got a body and all this space to do stuff too.
You're too kind. I watched the headroom. Okay, so this next song is called something. It's called Fresno, and it's about the town that I live in. It's where we're all from. All of you, even if you don't know it, you're watching Faraway Lands. In a way, you're all from Fresno too. And it goes like this. Okay, and here's where we're going to freak out the people that come later into the room because we're going to know the parts. It's just there's a part. There's a village in Argentina. It's built in a canyon, and they communicate only through chromatic scales. And the one side they can only do ascending scales, and the people on the other canyon wall they can only do descending scales. And so anyway, it goes like this part, and it's good. It's another sing-along part. It goes like this. That's exactly right. You guys are doing it perfectly. Okay, here's the body of the song. It's a slogan about Fresno. Be world class. Kenney Fresno was recently floated the new city motto, but it shows the agents of reality had been incommunicado. Though never ever meant to be made public, no, it was only to encourage positive thinking. But I've lived in this town for 42 years and I can't imagine what they were smoking.
Let's talk more about that later.
Sure. And Jim, so you met Brian at the Namm, was that right? That's where you first saw him, or?
Yes, he just mentioned that we had met earlier than that, and I believe him, but I don't remember specifically. Maybe was it at Namm that we met before?
Yeah, I would guess so. I mean, I remember following you on the internet when the internet first came out, and likewise, Jim was one of the few stick players that I really admired. He was doing something really original and was like right up my alley. So
Well, thank
that
you.
makes a big difference.
Did you demo for ART more than 1 year?
I think 2, maybe 3. It's a blur.
Then I probably met you at the show, listened to your cassette a few months later, and then told Mark about it. And probably by the next show was when we had you come and play at the after Namm party. And I had just switched over probably from the stick to the Warr a year or 2 previously.
That sounds about right.
We're talking about 25 years ago, and
Yeah.
I'm getting old.
There was a lot of people there playing the Warr guitar. I was impressed.
Randy and Frank Jolliffe probably was there.
He was.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of who else it would have been. There's a photo somewhere.
Kuno.
I'll have to see if I can dig that up for Finbar.
Yeah, Mark had told me how he really wanted somebody famous to be playing his guitar to get it really, to get it into the public eye and everything. And so one time, Steve Vai was holding camp there, and everybody was gathered around and doing the thing that they do around Steve Vai, and I went over with the fanciest Warr guitar that Mark had, and I was going to give it to him because Mark wasn't around, and I thought that he would be happy that I would do that, and anyway, so Steve was whisked off before I was like holding it up, and I was like showing it to him. I was like, this could be yours sort of look on my face. I didn't say anything, but because I was just hoping I would get a minute afterwards, when something, but then his security guys whisked him away. And then when I told Mark about that later, it was like, oh my God, I'm glad you didn't. Because, it's probably worth like $5,000 or something. I don't know.
There was 1 year where I saw Stevie Wonder walking through the Namm show with his entourage, right? And I love Stevie Wonder.
Oh,
and so
everybody loves Stevie Wonder.
He stopped and he got in a lineup to have his photo taken with somebody. And so there was a space between him and whoever was taking the photo and all the people watching. And I ran into that space and I got down on my hands and knees and started doing this in front of him until I heard people laughing. And then I got up and I just ran away, right? I didn't say anything. And a year later, I was working as an assistant engineer with all of his support people. And I was practicing getting ready for the Namm show on my phalanx in another room. And the guy came in and he's like, what is that thing? And he was the guy that always took Stevie to the Namm show. And I said, well, do you remember last year when you were having your photo taken and somebody got on the ground in front of you and started doing this? And he said, yeah, I do remember that. And I said, well, that was me. So
Stevie needs a good genuflect in. I've got this fly that's
annoying. To the Warr booth to say hello to me, and I was just honored. And Stevie kind of put her on his shoulder and tapped it for a while, and then said, "God bless you." And I was like, "Well, that's it." Stevie Wonder said, "God bless you" to me, so the rest of my life is charmed.
That is, I should say, you have a spot in heaven waiting for you.
Yeah, it's like Bill Murray. So I got that going for me,
I recognize that.
So, Brian, your evolution with the instrument, you've been playing, how many years? Sounds like 20 years or so.
Well, I'm 57. I'll be 58 this June. And I started when I was, July. I started when I was 19.
Wow.
So I used to keep track of the math. It's too much now.
Do you remember when you first, let's say, got into touch style? Like, were you playing guitar or bass, or what? And you saw this thing? What was the story there?
My friend had some things he showed me. We played in a band together, and he showed some stuff on the bass, and he was the one that told me about the stick. That's the first time I ever heard about it, and then I was like, oh wow, neat. There's a whole instrument about this, huh? And yeah, at that point there was like a few people that had done that, on the guitar at all. Steve Hackett and Van Halen, but nobody was like doing it on the bass in a rhythmic sort of, the way that it becomes so drum oriented.
Yeah. And I think you and Randy were saying, Jim, that you saw an ad in Guitar Player. Is that right?
I had seen an article. Randy talked about the same article, kind of introducing the instrument, and a friend came and got me one night and said, "This guy is playing down at Melody Music." This was in Denver, and I said, "Yeah, I've read about that. I don't really want to. I don't care." He said, "No, we have to go." And so I did, and that was what got me started. Was seeing Emmett play. I was like, yeah, okay, I like the idea of two separate sounds out of the same instrument, and there was a lot of cool things going on that made it attractive to me. So I saved up my money and drove to Los Angeles, and from about an hour outside of town called them. I think I related that story where I ended up going and meeting Paul.
Yeah, you did, yeah.
Paul is always kind of a central person that we all revolve around in our conversations here. We'll have to get him on the show.
Yeah, we will, yeah.
Yeah, he is central. That was the closest I ever saw was Kitty Hawk there, and that was the whole thing also, as it's supporting a singer. That was really important. I saw that and just like, oh no, that's it right there.
So Brian, you in your live performances, you were singing and playing the Warr, is that right? And did you play it over your shoulder like in the photos, or did you play it like in a normal sort of?
I played. I play it in a normal way. I sing. All my things are about singing and having the audience sing along is the whole structure of the Brian Kenney Fresno show, and the guitar is like a thing that it has such a great separation, and of course all of the contrapuntal possibilities and stuff, and all that rhythm, and just the range, and anyway, so it's all about the singing, and I play it over that ridiculous thing from picture. That started out as the Namm Randy's. That's actually Randy's guitar, and we were just goofing around. And but there's actually I wrote this song called "Stick War" that talks about the difference between the Chapman stick and the Warr guitar. And in the middle of it, I have this big wank fest where I, just really shred and just do. It's really silly. It's a comical, wah sort of thing, and lots of off the side. I'm forgetting what they call it in classical guitar it's usually accidental when the string goes off the side. But anyway, you can get great intervallic leaps getting this. You know what I mean? Anyway, and that started, and then I could do that with my thumb when I do it. Like for wanking's sake, and you could really masturbatory sort of presentation. When it's upside down like that, and then but the thumb with the high string off of the edge, it becomes really incredibly expressive. And as my friend Lauren Pickford, the jazz instructor, pointed out, any dominant chord, which is what this groove is over, any dominant chord, you can play any note, and it's going to be totally valid, qualified by what's around it, what's directly around it, phrase-wise. So any note that I could possibly land on could be validated by further wanking just right next door. And well, how randomness can be so beautiful and perfect and can't fail if you let it not.
Love it.
Well, and I hope you have some videotape that you can include in this episode, Finbar, to show the audience, because Brian's shows are unlike any other. I've attended at least a dozen of Brian's live shows, shared bills with him, and he's a performance artist as much as he is a musician. He's a comedian as much as he's a performance artist, and so I mean,
I was saying about that chromatic.
he'll have
parts already.
a button that causes applause, or he has a fan to blow his hair. I saw your recent Facebook post about how you said you couldn't believe that over a year ago you used to carry around raisins in your pocket and just hand them out to people, and how impossible that seemed in the age of COVID. And it's true, it was all local color about where Brian is from, so he was like a troubadour in the sense that he would travel around and tell you about this strange place where he was from, and it was just different from every other artist that you saw anywhere doing anything. It was his own unique category. It is his own unique category. And so again, I hope you have some videotape to show. It's such,
I hope so
everybody
too.
Everybody who sees Brian perform remembers Brian. You don't forget him after you see him.
That's sweet.
It's such a different thing, and it sells itself. I don't know. That's all I can say is I have a picture somewhere in my collection of when I went to Europe and I showed everybody a video of Brian playing Yngwie Malmsteen, which he plays entirely by taking a toy guitar that plays licks and putting it in front of his pickup and using all the licks on the toy guitar to create a song about Yngwie Malmsteen. And by the end of the seminar, everybody was going, "Whoa!" because they had seen Brian do it. So he became a phenomena immediately. And I'm glad that you have him on the show so that everybody can see what a tremendous musician he is.
Wow, Jim,
and everybody
thank
should
you.
buy his album.
Thank you. Yeah, that would be neat. I need a boat. I thought I was going to reach over and grab that little guitar right there, but it's not there.
Well, yeah,
I had to service all my batteries.
I just love it. It's such an honor to have you on, Brian. It's just, like this creative thing, for someone like me, I spent a lot of my early years just purely technique. And then I tried to work really hard at throwing all that stuff away and just being really creative and swapping strings around on a guitar and tuning my 7-string to the word baggage, just all different things but just to hear what you've done and your performance art and the comedy and, and the sarcasm and creating narratives that really make people's minds sort of meld and, get that cognitive dislocation. To me, I just love that. So it's just, to hear someone, who's not only taken, embraced an instrument like this, but just fused it into this hot pot of creativity. It just blows my mind.
Man, well, thank you. I can't. I don't know how to respond.
Well, you did win that award, right? What was that award? Your humility.
Oh yeah,
award.
yeah, my humility trophy. I had it framed earlier when I was looking at QuickTime.
So for everyone that doesn't know, Brian made his own humility trophy, and then he got awarded it without knowing he was going to get awarded the trophy that he made. And the trophy is a humility trophy.
Yeah, it's right here.
There it is.
Yeah.
With a mirror.
It's so good.
Yeah, this is my mirror of self-admiration. This used to hang from my mic stand so that I would always remember that I'm performing. You got to be in my camp, in my band, which is everybody in the audience is in the band, of course. You have to be posing at all times. I mean, because we're performing after all, and yeah. People would expect no less because they paid all this money for a ticket, and we've got to deliver.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the other thing I forgot to mention about Brian's shows is how much audience participation is a part of the show, which is just a brilliant
and volunteerism.
Formula. Pardon?
And volunteerism.
Volunteerism, yes. Well,
yes.
Yeah, you do need to get the gear out to the car after the gig.
Well, no, it's not for that. You see, well, that's another story, actually. So Finbar, I have this huge rig of stuff. It's a big pile of stuff, but I worked as a stagehand with the local union, the 158, and I learned so much about moving stuff around, big piles of stuff quickly and efficiently, and having things loomed together and boxes and stuff that, where it could just all go away, so that my show is never a burden to the bands that I play in front of or around, because there's so much stuff. But yeah, and people don't know how to operate the cranes and stuff. So there's I can't just have the volunteers do that. But they do take around the raisins, and they take around, they change the transparencies for the sing-along lyric sheets that I have projected on a screen so everybody can sing. Because that's the only way they can know the lyrics, is if I project them.
So it's safe to say that there's never one show that's ever the same as another show, correct?
Yeah, that is true. It couldn't really be. Especially, you know, now that I'm doing this thing with the drums with my feet. Oh, I'd love to talk more about that. But the thing is that I started doing it before I could really do it, because it just sounded so cool and was working. I mean, just the fundamentals of what I had going it's shocking. There's so little necessary, but when it's all tied together with one brain doing it, it becomes fairly unbelievable when I listen back to the recordings. So what I have going with my feet, I have 3 pedals. I need to make a rig video sometime very soon. I have 3 cat pedals made by the Drum Tech Corporation. They used to work with Cat, K-A-T. And so the first one, closest to me, operates, it does a sloshy hi-hat that goes when I hit it lightly. And then I have a kick drum that has a different trigger level. Oh, these are top secrets here, but I want to share this with people because I've developed this, and I don't want it just to die with me, which is any minute, basically, in the scheme of things. And so I have the slooshy hi-hat at low sensitivity, and then when I hit it harder, I get a kick drum. So then you have 2 elements, and then the next pedal over is just a snare. So my right foot flutters over between those 2 pedals, and so I get the slooshy hi-hat by itself, or that with the kick, and then the snare right next to it. And then I have a third pedal to the far right, that has a snare and a crash cymbal for accents. And so between those 3, well, it's actually 4 elements. Well, it's actually 5 elements when you consider the snare and the hi-hat together. The snare and the crash. Point being, there's so much ground that can be covered there. It sounds like you're playing with a drummer when you listen back, and there's full hocketing, and yet it's really hard. But you get all the stops and everything, and the accents for everything, and it's alive. It's with you singing and playing in real time, and in a way that a sequence or a drum machine or anything like that could never ever do. And I've taken it to the point where it's more than a band could ever do, because I mean, if you rehearse it that way, then it's not fluid, right? It's just by its very nature, you're not improvising anymore. So you can really pause on moments, and you can really just know things.
Oh, but who's it gonna be? Anyone here besides me? Long since past the tipping point and handy with heavy caliber weaponry. You gotta be all you can be while you're still young and strong. Don't wait for some disease, no, that's gonna take too long. And we've all already got one, it's called.
And for example, on your snare crash pedal, how do you differentiate between the 2 sounds? Is it velocity or?
On those are no velocity on them. Oh, well, I mean, I don't differentiate. It's both at the same time.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, that's just for accents.
I see. They play together.
Yes. And
Gotcha.
Anyway, and it's really awkward, and really, it really keeps you from getting too fancy, which is good. And then I also have these pads off on the right that I play with a stick for different configurations. Different songs require different things, you know, and like, you know, hard rock and things like Fresno sticks, and you know, the whole visceral effect. You know, what is more powerful in rock than the drummer, you know, with the drumsticks, and he's hitting things, you know, and I think this is important.
So Brian Poughkeepsie is no longer in the band.
Oh, that's Ryan, my brother Ryan.
Ryan,
Finbar,
pardon me.
I played drums. My brother Ryan Kenny Poughkeepsie used to play drums with me live over the internet. It worked actually better than your system here, because I don't know how the heck he did it way back when. It was just over a dial-up system too. But we have a recording that we put out. Yeah, I can't believe how he did this almost like 20 years ago. Crazy. But yeah, I haven't
Hey,
heard
I
from
was
him. He doesn't
into
have a cell phone either.
I'm into the early years of Fresno, man. That's the great Fresno. I forgot about Too Much Coffee. How could I forget about that song?
I don't know, Jim. I just don't know. No, yeah, I always thought it would be a radio drive time classic, but if I had more power in the business,
You just have to take it.
I try to. Yeah, I've been feeling so ridiculous. My outburst of my humility trophy, and I'm so embarrassed by all the people that I am totally humiliated by. I live in Fresno. I was telling Jim earlier last week or so about the jazz scene here, the amazing players that we have here, and just elsewhere, everywhere in the world. Everything is so fantastic. It's stunning, and that's why it's necessary for me to talk really loudly about myself and promote unabashedly, because there's nobody that's going to do it for me, and nobody's going to put on my cape for me, and
Right.
you can get people to take around raisins and do lots of stuff for you, but they're not going to
There's
talk
a,
about me as lovingly as I will.
there's a wonderful thing that Alec Baldwin talks about on the Comedians in Cars with Coffee with Jerry Seinfeld about how, there's no society that goes around and decides, oh, this guy's ready to be famous, here's your pass, that doesn't happen. You have to create it yourself.
I think that's true.
Yeah. Yeah. We all
But
expected that if we got enough talent,
yeah, I think
Angeline.
to your point, Brian, there is, you can turn on the internet now and you can watch 3-year-old kids shredding like Van Halen, and you can, everyone's like incredibly talented and genius, but there's, I love to be able, just showcasing work like what you do, and it's just, it's fresh. It's, even though it's not fresh to you, it should have a voice. It's like, and you can only get beaten down because sometimes you feel like there's an avalanche of other stuff and no one's hearing you. But I want to let you know that there are people out there like me that appreciate it, and Jim, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that are going to watch this that will appreciate that too. So, I congratulate you for the years of just exploring creativity and just unabashedly just going for it. I think it's a real credit to you and to art itself. I think it's the more people can tune in and explore new dimensions. I think at least for me, I think it's amazing. So it's just an honor to have you on.
Wow, I am beside myself. Thank you. I'm touched.
and also remember that everybody else on the internet is lying about themselves.
Right, that's our job. I remember, Jim, you welcomed me to Facebook, and the Carnegie thing or something, the shucksterism or hucksterism. It was essentially our job, the way I understood it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, look, guys, I just wanted to thank you both for tuning in. I'm really passionate about reconnecting this amazing community and showcasing this instrument and hearing all the stories and showcasing, what you've got coming up. And, if there's anyone who wants to add any questions here, we can just, you can connect to Brian on his Facebook and Jim, obviously, and, just keep pumping the questions out. We just want to keep building this community. We want to keep getting people aware of this instrument and the amazing work and art that the people that play this instrument are creating. So kudos to you guys. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll check you out on the next episode.
Beautiful. And Finbar, thank you so much for all the work you're doing promoting the instrument and everything. This has been waiting for you to come along and do this.
Well, guys,
no one has done yet.
I'm a little bit of I just smash down walls. I'm just passionate about it, and I'm really passionate about the people that have just created amazing sounds out of it. So thank you guys for being part of it.
Absolutely, passion.
Our pleasure. Thank you, Finbar.
Thank you.
See you guys. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Have a good one.
So long, Jim.
Excuse me, can I help you? Hey, whoa, I beg your pardon. What the hell do you think you're doing loitering in my garden? I know it's you and all your friends that's been killing off the bees. So now you get it execution style lined up on your knees. Hear the people rising up, and they're coming for you, Monsanto. Now the corporations are people, your assassins are lining up pronto. But first we want to hear you apologize with a gun stuffed in your mouth for how you patented and poisoned paradise and then sent the whole thing to hell. Oh, but who's it gonna be? Anyone here besides me? Long since past the tipping point and handy with heavy caliber weaponry. You gotta be all you can be while you're still young and strong. Don't wait for some disease, no, that's gonna take too long. We've all already got one, it's called death. You could do it on your birthday, you could do it to defy death. You could do it for fun and adventure. If you're from Fresno, you do it on meth. You could do it to save the planet. You could do it for the girl next door. You could do it to get on TV. You could do it for the romantic lore. Just think of all the organic farming girlfriends you'll have clinging to your deal.
What a great episode. Again, that was a great conversation. Really digging where Raiders is going. Thanks, guys, for all tuning in. Now we're live on multiple platforms, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook. Send me any suggestions. You know, we're all about sort of exploring new dimensions in sound, music, video, entertainment, exposing artists, instruments. So thanks again for tuning in, and thanks for subscribing to my YouTube. It's building, and, you know, we really appreciate it. Until next week, let's get into the outro, and I'll see you next time.